Here's Papa.
Hello, 45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel, and today we're bringing you something that's a little bit of a curiosity. Now you can see it's in its original case, but this would be something that would have been available to the American shooting public prior to the 1968 Gun Control Act. Now let's go ahead and take a look, see what we've got in here. What we've got in here is a very Walther-inspired licensed copy of an MAB Model GZ. Now this one was made in Spain. Came with its original case. Got an extra magazine here, but just kind of a very interesting little pistol, and a very interesting snapshot in history. I mean, these were coming into the country. You would have been able to pick this up for probably right around that $25 mark. Which would have been relatively inexpensive in its day. Now, MAB originally designed this and licensed it to this EA company, and I believe it's like Esteve Ezamendi. I probably just butchered the heck out of that, but I'll spell it out down below here. It was marketed, it was given to them, licensed to them, so that they can make them for MAB originally. And if it was a early copy of the MAB pistol, it would have said MAB Española on the grip here. But this was one that was made for the export market here to the United States and elsewhere. They would have marketed this under about a few different brand names. It was marketed under Estacia Fast. It would have been marketed under Basque, like this one. Would have been marketed under Dixon Special Agent. Would have also been marketed under Liberty Arms. So, they had a few names out there, but they're all essentially the same pistol. Now, if you have one that's the MAB GZ model, it has a few more features than the Spanish ones do. The Spanish ones were simplified for manufacturing. Aluminum frame, 1960s, and an aluminum frame and steel slide. Very interesting. Just a little snapshot in history. Some of that stuff I like to collect. Stuff that would have been considered a Saturday Night Special back in 1968. Those cheap guns that were coming over and flooding the market. And this would have probably have fallen in that category. They would never have been imported after 1968. They couldn't meet the import requirements. But just a kind of a curious little pistol. Like I said, made in Spain. Very Walther looking. Very fun little pistol to shoot. Now, let's go out and shoot it. Take it out to the range, and we'll come back and I'll kind of go over my impressions of firing the pistol. We are back from the range with our little 380 pocket pistol from Spain. These were also available in 22 and 32 ACP. So, there were a couple chamberings in these, but nice little pocket pistol from Spain from back in the day, but I wouldn't carry this in my pocket, at least not with a loaded chamber. These do not enjoy the passive safeties that are on current production guns. A couple of those being, this is not drop safe. You hit this hammer hard enough, it will go off. Even at half cock, even a little bump on the trigger, takes it off that little half cock notch. And again, not drop safe. The other thing is it doesn't have a trigger bar safety in here, which means that on the newer pistols, the trigger has to be all the way to the rear before it aligns the firing pin up to fire. but this one does not have one of those on it. So in a pocket, I wouldn't carry it with a loaded round. It would be on an empty round if I was carrying it around in a pocket. But these would find a nice home in, say, a glove box, tackle box, toolbox, nightstand, briefcase. Just something where you could stash it away for easy access and quick availability. Now it does have a safety on the side here. Not a very easy place to get. In order to use it, I'd have to kind of turn the gun or use a second hand on it. So it's not a very practical safety, and it is just a trigger safety. It just prevents the trigger from going rearward. Other safety it does have on it is because it's European, and in that day they had to have the magazine drop or magazine disconnect safety. Now the magazines on these, it's got a Western style magazine release, but they don't drop free. You have to kind of grab them and pull them. Little 6-round box magazine, but now that the magazine is out of it, again, it doesn't allow the gun to be fired. Something curious on these, and I had mentioned earlier on the Spanish guns that they had taken some shortcuts in production. First shortcut is this does not have a slide hold open on it. It is just, it's a blowback, but the slide has no hold open on it. Another oddity on this is that if I go to put the magazine back in, it doesn't go back in unless you press the magazine release button, and then it will go in and seat. As for the trigger, it's got a very, very nice trigger. It is a single action only. There is no double action on this, so it's very much like a 1911. The hammer has to be cocked in order for it to fire. But being single action, it's very short, it's light, it's crisp. It's got a very nice trigger on it, except for the shape of the trigger. It's got a very round trigger on it, so it kind of digs into the bottom of your finger a little bit when using it. But if you see there when I was shooting it, I had a couple of boom booms, simply because of that light trigger, that recoil. As that gun came back down on target, I accidentally hit that trigger again. So it's got a fairly good trigger on it. Just got to get used to it a little bit. You saw that I had a couple little hiccups. I had some stovepipes with it. That could be part shooter, could be part gun, probably more shooter than anything else. This is my first time taking this out. Just trying to get the feel of it. It is a snappy little firearm. Now let's talk about accuracy on this, because it is blowback and it's a fixed barrel, and it's got that single action trigger. It's not bad accuracy wise. Again, these are my first shots with the pistol, but it's 7 yards. That's not too bad, not too shabby for a 50-some-year-old pistol. I'm pretty happy with this. Now the takedown on this is very similar to a Walther PPK in the Makarovs, except you don't have to do anything with the trigger guard. You don't pull the trigger guard down. There's not a little button here. What you have is a little release here to take it down, and you just pull that down. Earlier productions of these had a flat piece here and with a hole in it, and you had to use kind of a tool to pull it down. But later on they machined it so you can just take it down with your finger or thumb, and then it's just basically slides back, up, and off. So pretty easy to take apart to clean. Very much like a Makarov or a Walther PPK. Now I don't know if you can see in here. Yeah, and as you can see, all the milling marks inside here, just made very quickly, very inexpensively. And then to put it back together, you got to make sure that this seats in here, because otherwise it tends to want to bind up on the barrel going through. So you got to get that part seated flat in there, and then once you get that done, that seated, get it in there. There we go. Once it's seated, back up and over, and you push your little lever up, and you're back in business. But I just thought I'd bring this out to you. It's a little bit of a curiosity. Very Walther PPK inspired design, very European for the day. Just a neat little pocket pistol, a neat little snapshot in history. Something you just don't see a whole lot of anymore. I mean, they're not worth a whole lot. I would think that you may be able to pick them up for like 150, couple $100. I've really never seen any of these out available in the market. I think if you're going to find anything like this, it's probably going to be in private hands. Typically something that's either been handed down or somebody who's got one and doesn't want it anymore. Some of these are probably no longer operational or available anymore, but just my licensed copy of a French MAB GZ, just the Spanish Basque 380 auto pistol. And this is 45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel, and I'm out.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.